We maintain that there are some seriously brave people out there right now. And it's not people doing what I'm doing. It's people in the belly of the beast who are actually throwing away their careers to speak up about the abuse that's going on within our federal government, the weaponization against you. And joining me now, someone we've talked to before, Kyle Seraphin, now host of the Kyle Seraphin Show. But he's an FBI whistleblower who gave it all up to tell us what's going on. Kyle, and for the people who didn't see last time, the floor is yours. Give us your story before we get into all the other ugliness.
Yeah, Jesse, thanks so much for having me back. So quick and dirty is that I did some whistleblower disclosures in 2021, simultaneous to refusing the COVID shot under Executive Order 14043. And one of those two, or maybe both of them, resulted in the FBI finding me to be kind of a persona non gratis and sending me out the door. They put me on AWOL status for a little while. And then on April 18th, a year and 1 day ago, they took my badge and my gun. And they told me I was no longer an FBI employee, but I was subject to all FBI employee rules. And then they took my paycheck. So I haven't been paid in 10 months. And very recently, I sent them a letter saying, look, I know you broke up with me, but I'm breaking up with you too. I don't want to be disciplined for some crazy offense that you've imagined and investigated while I didn't work there. And I definitely don't need you kicking down my door. So thanks so much for the time. And, the relationship is over between us. That's kind of the quick and dirty catch up on it.
Kyle, the biggest recent story, there's 1,000 stories we can get into, but the biggest recent story was the whistleblower revelation about the Richmond field office and the attempted infiltration of Catholic churches. Now, you can call me a conspiracy theorist, Kyle, but if we've seen one piece of paper from one whistleblower in one field office that says they're attempting this, that tells me they're already in and clearly doing it already.
Well, they've been doing this with mosques since, just after September 11th. We know that this was starting 2004, 2005. There was definitely, examples of it in 2006 that were happening. So going after religious institutions with no allegation of criminal activity is an ongoing and regular part of the FBI's situation. When it comes to the Richmond field office, we know from Jim Jordan's revelations in the last 2 weeks that they're pretty confident there was an undercover employee that was infiltrating one of the parishes within the diocese. And based on a renewed interest, and my buddies and I went back and combed over the document that I exposed, it looks like that the analyst who was actually the writer of this may have been the infiltrator, which is even weirder. I've had people from that diocese reach out to me and say, hey, we think we've narrowed it down to who it is. And, does he meet this description? And it's like, yeah, that's probably him. So it's kind of a wild story, but, there's no reason to believe that they're not willing to go into Christian churches. It's not just Catholics. They just tried to carve off a section they thought that nobody would care about, but it turns out a lot of people do.
Kyle, using what they did with the mosques, what are they doing when they infiltrate? What does that mean? I don't think they're stealing the tithes on Sunday. What are they doing there? I don't know how this works.
Yeah, so they're going in and they're recruiting people that'd be sympathetic to report to the government. And then they're essentially creating a target list, right? They are trying to find reasons to open up federal investigations. So the broader investigation may be what they call like a Type 5 assessment, which Jim Jordan's office revealed to us. And what that is it's a pre-investigative step to list off a bunch of people that would be susceptible to recruitment to being a confidential human source, or often known as a confidential informant. And then they're going to get these people to just report on their neighbors, report on their friends, report on the people that are in the pews next to them or kneeling on the prayer mats next to them. And they're trying to gin up sort of a narrative that there is, in the case of the Catholic doctrine, they're looking for white supremacists. And I don't know how many Catholics you know, but there's not a ton of white supremacists hanging out in the Catholic Church. But that's what they're looking for, because that's how they're incentivized. That's where the federal budget goes. It pays for them to find these cases. It pays for them to run the cases. And then maybe the craziest thing is they actually predict every single year, before the year starts, how many disruptions of terrorist plots they're going to do. In 2022, the FBI forecasted 600 terrorist plot disruptions, and they fell short of the mark. They only got 397. So you're going to have to believe that the FBI interrupted a terrorist plot every day, twice on Sundays, for the whole year, if you believe the numbers that they're claiming.
Yeah, the KKK and Catholics have historically gotten along so well. I mean, they're practically one and the same. Okay, so explain this to people who get confused by this. Why would someone in a church, Catholic or otherwise, why would they ever inform on their person who sits in the pew next to them and someone who's in their same Sunday school class? That seems like an impossible task. Why would someone do that?
I think generally speaking, they won't. And that's really probably the difficulty and why they thought they were going to do it. And there's a couple ways they can go about this. They can go and do what's called a tripwire or a liaison contact. And that's maybe going to your parish priest and saying, this is what we're looking for. Tell us if you see it. And that's far less concerning, although I still think it's over the line. But when we're talking about trying to lean on other people to inform, generally speaking, what they'll do is they'll go to you and they'll say, we want you to report on this. And then what we saw in at least the examples of the mosques, and there was a Supreme Court case that was actually victorious on behalf of a number of Muslim Americans out of California last year. The FBI said, we'd like you to report on your neighbors. And they said, no, thank you. That's inappropriate. And so the Bureau said, it's really a shame that you're not going to be able to fly around this country. And several guys lost jobs because they had jobs that required them to fly around the country and do consultations and things like that. And so they put them on the no-fly list, and they put them through secondary every time they went anywhere, and they got invasive searches. And so, there's kind of a carrot and a stick mentality. It's like, if you don't play ball with us, then we're going to just lean on you really hard. And if you want to get off that no-fly list, you're going to have to go to DC, sit in the Hoover building, and do a polygraph. This was one of the things that came out of this Muslim Americans case. And like I said, they were victorious in front of the Supreme Court.
Golly. All right, and there's another case that's out there that's really weird. A Chinese police station? They found one in New York City. Apparently now there are multiple of these all over the country. We have Chinese military-age meals pouring across our southern border. One of these guys took a picture with Chuck Schumer. What? What is this?
Yeah, I think a police station is misnomer. These are intelligence outposts. So in 2014, the Chinese launched this sort of operation. It's called Operation Fox Hunt. At least that's what we've called it. They've changed names. It's been called Operation Skynet. And they've claimed that is an anti-corruption sort of probe across the globe, sending Chinese law enforcement and intelligence officers around to grab all these people that are corrupt and have taken money from the Chinese people. And that sounds sort of okay, not really great, but it's less insidious than what's really going on. And what they really do is they target Chinese dissidents all over the world, and particularly in this country as well. And so even in the first 6 months, they claim they grabbed almost 700 people. These are either coerced, threatened, or literally physical renditions. They're throwing a black bag and putting people on a private jet and taking them out of the country, taking them out of places like Western Europe, taking them out of Africa, and then taking them out of the United States as well. And they're taking them back to face Chinese justice, whatever that looks like, which I don't feel very confident about. And then I guess the worst case scenario is if they don't play ball, then they threaten family members who are back in China. One of the things that we've noticed is that, when I worked in the Bureau, I did 2 years of Chinese counterintelligence. So we had Uyghurs who are, historically threatened by the Chinese government, and they're put in labor camps and all this kind of thing. They'd come to the United States, they would leave everything, and then they'd get a phone call with a family member on the line and some member of the Chinese Communist Party in the intel apparatus who would be threatening their family member over the phone to them right then, letting them know, if you don't come home, something terrible is going to happen to your mom, your dad, your sister, your brother, whatever.
That's friggin' terrible. Kyle, thank you, my brother. Wish you all the success in the world. Yeah, I don't have a lot of faith that the Chinese justice system is going to treat those people very fairly, kind of like our justice system. You know what? Let's talk to Luke Rosiak a little bit about what's going on in Loudoun County, Virginia. Why does it matter? We'll talk about that in just a moment. Before we talk about that, let's always make sure we're taking care of our finances, no? And that used to be, pay off your credit cards on time and things like that. And all those things still apply, but paying off your credit cards is hardly going to matter if the value of your dollar continues to go down, and it will. These people are wrecking the value of the dollar, and now the world is piling on as they try to remove it as being the world's reserve currency. So what do you do about that? You're just a person. I'm just a person. I can't fix it. All I can do is prepare. All I can do is make sure that while I can, I will always have something in my physical possession that will allow me to purchase goods and services no matter what happens. No matter what the Fed does, or Janet Yellen does, or China does, I always will be able to buy things. Why? Because of Oxford Gold. Because they'll deliver gold and silver coins to your front door like they did mine. They'll weave gold and silver into your 401k and IRA, so when this market goes pop, and it will, you will still have value in there. One phone call. They make it easy. It's not some hardcore sales pitch. I can't deal with that kind of stuff. They're real laid back. They will simply take care of you. Tell them I told you to call. Call 833-995-GOLD, all right? 833-995-GOLD. We'll be back.
Before you leave here today, you will have committed 3 murders.
Why would I do that?
Legion mihin nomenest, quia mortis sumas.
What are you doing?
My name is Nefariamus. Names are important. They have power. They let everyone know who we are.
It's the laugh. The laugh really got me. Just freaking creeped me out, the laugh. Joining me now, my buddy Steve Deace of the Great Steve Deace Show, and he's the one responsible for that movie Nefarious. Steve, I'm a little confused about this, and we've never talked about this offline. How do you go from having this successful career and successful show to being Steven Spielberg or wherever you are now? How does that even happen?
Well, it happens because Glenn Beck put you on his show to talk about your book, and a few movie producers just happened to be listening that day, and they're like, that sounds interesting, and they call you and offer you a movie deal. I mean, I could not have made this happen if I wanted to. It just completely happened organically, brother.
Okay, well, that's freaking cool. I love this country. I love Glenn. All right, well, tell me, how's the response been? I mean, it's your first movie. I assume it's your first movie.
Right.
Is anyone going?
We ended up finishing in the top 10 in the box office this past weekend, despite being on 65% fewer screens than all the other new releases this week from the studios. And you've still got some big budget blockbusters still in. I mean, the Super Mario Brothers movie that I know you really like is still in theaters. You still have Creed 3, John Wick 4 still in theaters. So competition is fierce. We've had good numbers this week. And it's a unique film. I mean, the marketing of the film is, we marketed it as a horror film to try and reach skeptics to come into the theater and let us challenge their worldview. But it's certainly more Silence of the Lambs psychological thriller than anything like The Exorcist. It's not true horror. It's really the Screw Tape Letters come to life, and Sean Patrick Flannery's performance as Nefarious it's beyond next level. I've compared it to Nicholson in The Shining quite frequently. It's that good.
Yeah, dude is always so good, and he nailed it in there. Steve, this is something we have neglected, and I've been very guilty of this myself. This is something we've neglected for so long on the right, is the culture stuff. Because I'm not really an art guy. I don't have any talent there, and I certainly don't have any talent for movies or music and stuff. So I just kind of dismiss that stuff as being unimportant. But that stuff's critically important, isn't it?
I think it's the last place left in our culture, Jesse, where widespread persuasion can still happen. Everything else, there's no cartilage left in the knee. It's bone on bone. Every institution has largely been weaponized against us. Our churches should be a place where persuasion happens, but we've got too many guys in Hawaiian shirts with pleated khakis who Bill Maher is more of a threat to the spirit of the age than they are, and we know what he believes. We don't have a lot of agency. There's only a handful of Republicans around the country who are really serious for the right reasons in representing us. And so where would we turn for persuasion? And storytelling is really the last refuge for it. And I think that we need to reassess our investment. And I'm not saying to divest from the political system, but instead of maybe giving your last $50 a month to the Republican who hates you, give him 25. And maybe that other 25 to people that are trying to go into the story business and find people that aren't like us and change their minds. People will let you say things to them in a story that they wouldn't let you say to them objectively straight up in a conversation. They'll let you in a story, if it's entertaining, challenge their worldview in ways they wouldn't in a straight up conversation. And so I think that this is an arena that we need to master.
I agree, and we can master it because they're so bitter and miserable and unhappy, so they have a hard time creating beautiful things, but we can create beautiful things. Now, something I'm not sure is beautiful is AI, and I'm not a technical person, Steve. You know I'm an idiot, and you're not, so I don't even understand what it is, but Elon Musk did a little interview. Well, here it is.
At what point does it start to really change our society, do you think?
I think it starts to have probably an impact this year. GPT-4, now it's like writing poetry and...
Pretty decent poetry, actually.
Pretty decent. Its skill at rhyming is incredible.
Yes, yes, and it's coherent.
Yes, it is. It's even got a narrative.
Yes, that's right.
Yeah. So you could say
That's hard to do.
Like most humans can't do that.
That's true.
So it's already past the point of what most humans can do. Most humans cannot write as well as ChatGPT. And there's certainly, and no human can write that well that fast, to the best of my knowledge.
Steve, you've done a lot of talk about this. I want you to do me a favor and pretend like you're talking to my dad, who discovered text messaging like 15 minutes ago. What is this stuff, and why should I care?
It's not that complicated, actually, because we focus on the machinery, technical side of it. And of course, that requires a certain amount of skill and training to at an elite level to understand. But here's the thing that everyone needs to understand, Jesse. These algorithms don't fall from the sky. They don't organically emerge. They're not. Aren't summoned via osmosis. They are programmed, which means they have a programmer. They are coded, which means they have a coder. And so therefore, all of these entities are really machine manifestations of the assumptions of the ones that are doing the programming and the coding. They're not standalone intellects, at least not yet. We're not to Good Morning Dave yet, but we might be on the road there. And so this is why when you go to ChatGPT, this is why it's basically the MSNBC. MSNBC as a primetime lineup as an algorithm, because that's who programmed it. And what I'm concerned about that. Let me tell you, though, what I'm really concerned about. And I love a lot of what Elon Musk has done. But he goes on to say in that interview that he wants to create his own rival AI that will seek out ultimate truth and the mysteries of the universe. Okay. What are we going to build into that machine to recognize ultimate truth? And whom will do that building into? Whom among us? We just had Easter. I would argue that's the only time any human being was qualified to determine what is ultimately truth. And we hung him on a cross. So for the rest of us mere mortals, who among us would be able to program into a machine what ultimate truth is? And I think that's the stuff, what the ChatGPT thing, frankly, is political masturbation for spirit of the age communists to just program a machine that gets their jollies off of feeding their feedback loop into the maelstrom and does it faster than the New York Times and Washington Post can, as Elon says there. What I'm more concerned about moving forward is if we're going to now create machines that are objective oracles of truth. They can't be objective. They have to be programmed. So who's doing the programming? And that is now where rival religions and cults and those sorts of things get formed. And so I'm probably even more concerned about what his answer is to this than I am this very thing at this moment.
Steve, appreciate you, man. Go see Nefarious, everybody. Appreciate you, brother.
Thank you very much. Same here.
All right. We're not done. We're not done. We got more. Still have a light in the mood. Hey, before we get to light in the mood, let's get to this. It is allergy season. You walk out of your house, and I know what you see. Same thing I see at my house. Just this film of pollen on your car, on everything. We took some paper towels. We have a little counter out back, and took some paper towels and wiped down the counter, and it was just yellow. Looking at it, just, ugh. That's why we're all sneezing, eyes red. It's terrible. Well, not all of us. Some of us have Eden Pure Thunderstorms, the greatest air purifier ever, which is weird because it's the smallest, quietest air purifier I've ever had, and it doesn't have a filter that I need to replace. Just a little black box that goes in the wall. It will clean your air, not cover up smells. Take them out of the air. Pets, cooking, whatever, allergies. They have 3 packs for sale right now for my viewers, $200 off. Go to EdenPureDeals.com, code Jesse, get a 3-pack for $200 off. All right? We have really creepy people in charge. We do. Think about all the weird, really just kind of odd, some cases odd, some cases outright really, really creepy pictures and video we have out there of the people who lead us. Joe Biden and Grandma Vodka got together recently. Before we get to that, let's get to this really quickly here. Remember, you're not stuck in your timeshare. Everyone's looking for a way to save money right now, everybody. And the timeshare you don't use anymore, it's the obvious one. I don't want to pay the annual fees. I don't want to pay the special assessments. I wouldn't want to either. But you think you're stuck because they told you you're stuck. You're not stuck. Make one phone call, all right? Lone Star Transfer They put it in writing. They not only will get you out, they give you a time frame in writing. They're successful 99% of the time. You just have to make a phone call. Call them. Call 844-310-2646. They will get you out. 844-310-2646. Now, Joe Biden and Grandma Vodka had a tender moment? Well, I mean, look, can hardly blame Joe. After all, the wife was out there, remember, a State of the Union with Dome's husband. Weird people, at a minimum. We'll see you tomorrow.